And double check, double check, double check. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, hello, hello, hello. This is Geekle. This is UI UX Global Summit 2026. Can you imagine this? We're in 26 now. And that's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you, with our audience, with my speakers on background, on backstage. And yeah, we've been working on this for some time, and I'm so excited to actually share with all this audience uh, what's new, what's going on in the tech sphere overall and in design especially. And today's chapter is, very practical. The very practical. Okay. We hear a lot of vibe coding, AI taking over, and everything, and well, barely hearing about like how exactly it happens and what exactly actually this shift is, and but it happens. What I can tell you from talking with lots of different tech leaders across the industry with QAs, architects, developers a lot, and designers, of course, everything gets really faster, very, very fast. And yeah, and those who are using those AI tools and approaches are prevail, and the role is shifting. Every role is getting changed. And without further chatting from my side, I want to invite my dear speakers. Darren, we can see you now, but probably can't hear. Yeah. And also Pallavi, hello people. Thank you very much for taking time and effort to join us.
Yep, glad to be here.
Hello, happy to be here.
And I see Victor Churchill is connecting to the stream. And Victor, we can't see you, only can hear your microphone. Anyway, yeah, we can see you, brother. How are you?
Yeah. I'm all right. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's amazing lineup today, guys. Because Darren, where are you situated? Where are you now?
I'm in Southfield, Michigan, right outside of Detroit.
Okay, that's United States. And Pallavi, you
Hi, so I'm in India at the moment.
in the India, and Victor.
Yeah, I'm based in London, UK.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean, right? So it's literally all the globe here. Thank you very much for joining, and yeah, thank you for sharing your sessions. We have pre-recorded sessions. Let me remind to our audience and those who will be like 95% of our audience watching these streams recorded. And let me remind you how everything works. So we'll come together, saying hello to you, our dear audience, and then go back to backstage and I play session one, session two, and session three. Yeah, and then we come back together and having this Q&A session with answering your questions, discussing everything, and basically having fun all together because that's why we are here. Again, I always ask my speakers to avoid saying something that ChatGPT could say because, well, actually ChatGPT delivers knowledge. Nowadays it knows everything on the internet, but real life experience, emotions, reasons why, and it doesn't have any real life experience,
Right.
unlike us here in this stream. So that's why Giggle exists. That's why we keep going, and that's why people are coming. Real life experience. So let's do it. And thank you very much, my speakers, for joining this intro. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Pallavi. I'll put you to the backstage for a while, and then we'll come back in like 1 hour ish. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, and see you soon. And yeah, our first session is from Pallavi Bora, and she's sharing about AI-driven design to code pipeline. Very practical one. I really love this session. Let's go there. Let me pull it up.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So today I want to talk about how AI is changing the way we move from design intent to real working products. My topic for the day is AI-driven design to code pipelines. And I would like to talk about how what that means for designers, product teams, and engineers. So it's not actually a talk about AI replacing designers, it's about how AI is accelerating design thinking and about how we can build design to code pipelines that are faster, that are more inclusive, and more scalable. Um, so, so let's talk about where does AI add value? Design thinking has always been human-centered, right? We empathize, we define problems, we ideate, we prototype, test, and iterate. But what AI changes is not what we do, like not how we do it, but how fast and how broadly we can do it. So AI helps us analyze data much more quickly, much more exploratively, and faster. So I'll talk about it in the 4 steps that we have in the design thinking process. To begin with, empathy and research. So here we can analyze and research data in a very much more faster and better way in terms of gathering data, also refining it. I understanding from the data that we have, from what we can get to, and then making a judgment out of it. So but here, what the fact is that empathy, judgment, and responsibilities still have a human element to it. So in practice, design thinking today is no longer a sequence of steps. It is with AI, research, ideation, and prototyping and validation often happen in parallel because where we are getting data, we are also ideating alongside. Maybe we are also prototyping and have just doing all of this in parallel. So, with the research intent, what we're trying to do it helps with synthesizing insights from large volumes of information very quickly and very effectively. In terms of how we can define and help ideate better with AI, is to highlight patterns, is to get the understanding of where the gaps are lies, which probably sometimes the human understanding overlooks also. And in terms of ideation, we can get a lot of quick ideas quickly with a very less time consumption and iteratively. So if we have ideas, we think quicker, we iterate on that quicker and come to results quicker. The biggest shift with AI that has come in place is prototyping. Prototyping, mockups, wireframes have all become in from a sprints plan to a not even a week now, couple of days, couple of hours work. So that has come like a very big shift. We are still we're like moving from static wireframes to working living functional prototypes that are directly coded as well. So from design systems to actually design pipelines is what is happening right now. So I would say we are moving from a area where we used to say design systems, building design systems. Now we are building design pipelines. So what this actually means. So traditionally, designers used to create screens, right? That was documented behavior and handled everything over into engineering. Today, we are moving to design pipelines that are not just design systems. A pipeline where intent flows continuously from problem understanding to UX structure to interface and to production ready code. This doesn't remove collaboration. It removes friction. So things that were earlier thought that are not possible as designers, and maybe for engineers, where engineers thought this is not possible as engineers, for example, they couldn't design, as designers we couldn't code. All of that is a mix now. Designers can design and see the code simultaneously, and also engineers can code and see the design simultaneously. So there is no friction between design and code. It's all collaborative and kind of a mix that it has become. So what that means is we begin with understanding problem. We clarify assumptions and user needs. We define UX structure and priorities and generate UI with interaction logic. And finally produce usable code that can be iterated on, right? So as we talk about this, I would also like to talk about a couple of tools that we are using in today's times, where we can talk about AI and how it's being used in the process that we have been speaking about. So the first tool that is being used by a lot of people around the world, primarily for research and ideation and defining and ideation, is Perplexity. Now, what this tool does is um, it starts with us gathering the knowledge. Like, for example, whatever our product or whatever problem we are trying to solve, it all starts with understanding that problem. So the tool would help us define and understand the problem. So probably if we have started with nothing, we can just talk to it like a friend. I will be demoing this in a bit, but I just wanted to talk about it before I start the demo. So what we should start with is clarifying a problem. So what is the problem about? What data that tool can help us get at? And then creating the UX content. So it is like a research assistant that we are trying to work with, and not treating it as like a usual tool that we have. So consider it as a assistant and consider it as a maybe friend that is helping you work on a problem, right? So I would start the demo. So for example, if there is a product that we are trying to create, for example, I want to build okay, so let's talk about what the problem is. So I want to build a product which can solve the problem for people ignoring their health. All right. So this is the first prompt that we've added. Now here, this would give us all the details related to this prompt already. So now what we have got is that people often ignore their health due to procrastination, busy lifestyles, and so on. Now the core problem is already highlighted to us with this just one prompt. Product ideas have been given to us: gamified habit tracker, AI personalized reminders, social accountability app. So we're also highlighting some key features, market opportunities, and so on. Now, what we would like to do is narrow it down. So what we already told it is that we want to build a product which can solve the problem for people who ignore their health. So I would narrow it down to an AI personalized reminder application. Now I have asked it to specifically think about an AI personalized reminder application. Now that is what it's giving me. A few top examples as well. MediSafe, Ada Health, August AI, Biofumerus, and so on. Now, what we can also ask it is about list its competitors and talk about and do a SWOT analysis. So the system is already trying to list the competitors where the AI personalization in terms of health queries and updates is already happening. So, for example, MediSafe, the key focus is around medication reminders and insights. Pros and cons are listed also. Same for Ada Health, Groove Health, Fitbit Premium. So all these we have the pros, the cons, advantages and disadvantages. SWOT analysis along with opportunities and threats. So let's read about the opportunities. So booming AI health market. So we have wearable integration, unserved regions like India, rising chronic diseases needs post, and threats are intense competition from giants because of course there are so many people trying to get into this field, and data privacy is one of the main concerns, user fatigue from notification overload. So what we can also do is how we can overcome these threats, these concerns. Now the system has also got us data about that. So what we're trying to tell is that we have to have a conversation with the system just like we're having a conversation with a friend, trying to help understand what we are trying to get at. So wherever there's a question, ask it back. It'll tell you what it knows. Then getting an understanding from that, we have to again come up with something that we would want to ask. And that is how we are building a knowledge base here. All right. So once we have all the data that we need, then what we would do is compiling all the data, we would try to give a prompt to the system to create another prompt that we would take to another system to get some wireframes out of it. All right. So because this is just a quick demo, I wouldn't take a long process to do it, but some quick steps to do it. So here what we have already got is a summary and understanding of the SWOT analysis, the current understanding of the market, the opportunities, and so on. So I would ask the system to create a summary of an application that can be created to benefit users in India to help track their health, understanding from the above. So now, once we said that, it has given us a summary of what this application can be about. So that is where the ideation process starts. We are ideating in terms of the understanding we have from the data we have received, and now what we can build on top of it. So AI, India Health AI is a mobile app designed for Indian users to combat health neglect through personalized multilingual reminders for medications, habits, workouts, checkups, and so on. Core features are AI-powered reminders, passive monitoring, local integrations, target benefits for India. It is a mix of rural and urban population, uh, network, so all sorts of things. So the next step is to ask asking Perplexity to create and write a prompt for us to feed to Lovable that can help us create a prototype for it. All right. I'd actually go back to here where once we have this, we talk a little bit about what Lovable does. So in terms of Perplexity, it was about building the knowledge base and creating the ideas out of it. What Lovable is, once we have clarity as to what we would try to create, that is the ideas and the thought behind the product, we would come to another tool, which is Lovable. Here we enter the prompt, we generate the UI and then move to code. Here the components, and there are components that it's built on, and there is rapid iteration. So instead of literally drawing screens, we are actually describing behavior and structure and the goal. So instead of like building from scratch, we are directly jumping on to building wireframes. And the system is helping us to make a functional UI, which we can iterate on. So just a thought about what I wanted to share on that. And coming back to Lovable. So now I'll ask Perplexity to write me a prompt for Lovable. So now this tool will itself create a prompt that we can enter in Lovable and see how that goes further. And let's see. Now the prompt is already entered and this is getting ready. Now that is a little bit of a time that it takes to generate its first prompt. In the meantime, I would also like to talk a little bit about what is AI doing here. Now, AI is not helping us bring the ideal solution, but what it has done is it will quickly create things which we would have taken a week or maybe a sprint's time to create. So it's not about perfection, but it is about quick iteration. So what we are trying to achieve is quickly come to results which we can take feedback on, or maybe show some stakeholders again, getting some understanding from what the thought process is, what we are trying to get at, and iterate quickly on. So we're not trying to kind of get pixel perfect loops before validation, but test quickly, test the flows quickly, and prioritize things in terms of that and get to better results. So that is the idea behind creating things with AI rather than going the usual way and getting better in terms of design value and design thinking there, but having a lot of time behind that. But here we are doing it much quicker, but iteratively. So what is there with these tools is a part of it is paid, a part of it is free. So the free have a certain limits in terms of credits. So with the free trials and subscriptions, there are a few credits that we can try out. Beyond that, it is paid. But I would say to start with free credits so that you don't overdo it also. And everything in terms of using AI tools should be very well thought of, because if we are overdoing it, it can also get to us in terms of where we don't know the right place to stop then. So try starting with free credits 100%. And then once you understand what is the kind of line we want to draw to it, and then we can, explore further. So like you can see here, it's also in a way just telling us about what is happening at the moment. So the onboarding home screen and reminders tab, tracking tab, family sharing, and all of this is what is being created at the moment. And now the editing is ongoing. Here, what we had received is that the design inspiration is Indian cultural motifs, a bit of understanding of the healthcare apps, some about the color palette, key features. So all this comes listed. So once it's understood the information, it'll also talk about what it has understood and where it's coming from. In the meanwhile, I'll actually talk about the new role of the designer. So what this means is, as I was already mentioning, as designers, our role is evolving. We are no longer just limited to, arranging pixels in the way where we are defining the constraints, we are defining the logic, accessibility, or behavior. Prompting is a skill, and system thinking has become essential. So accessibility and scalability must be built in from the start and not added later. So what this means is we are building faster and better prototyping, better collaboration with the devs, more time for thinking, because AI is removing friction, allowing designers to focus on strategy, ethics, scalability, and impact. So that is what it is changing. We spend a lot less time on pushing pixels and move towards time shaping outcomes. So everything that is happening on the tool is being updated for us to know that what is, otherwise it's like curiosity also that builds in, right? So on the left, we can see this has been done, this has been done. And currently the system is doing the update of the routing and the creating the main index page. So we know there's something happening in the background while we are waiting as well. One thing I'd also like to talk about is why AI-driven design to code pipelines was important to me and how it did it personally benefit me in the term of the approach I used. So actually what happened was like initially in large scale products, what was happening, there was a recurring thing that was happening between design to code. Like once the designs were created and then moved to code, there was a transition. Not all the time the designers knew how the designs were being coded, and a lot of time there were gaps that were being missed, and this was a constant like back and forth that was between designers and developers. So as a kind of a curiosity, and also at times when I felt that what is wrong that is being done on the design side or developer side, I started exploring this on myself in terms of trying to design and then also seeing the code out of it. And that was just a way of more in terms of an intent to preserve what we are delivering as designers. So I began to treat the design system as inputs and more like not code, not specifically tokens or components, but more like a system of working. So I started using AI to translate the structure and starting the code to reduce ambiguity for developers. So this development and this 100% improved the consistency across the platforms and also the way we were working. So I wouldn't say it was the most perfect thing at first, but there were a lot of times when we kind of tried, experimented, and got results, and it was like a trial and error also. But more or less, with practice, there was a kind of flow that we developed, and a lot of practice made us come to a place where we were trying to get to a certain point and get better results with AI. And that practice taught us how that AI can work best when design is intentional and system-led. So today I would say the approach is to help teams move faster without compromising quality. And for me, AI driven design to code is not just about speed, but also scaling design responsibly without losing the human experience at the core. So I just want to add that because it's important also to understand that from a personal experience point of view. And yes, we have the application. So this is what we have received, and I think it's a good result. So once we say get started, we have it all in English and Hindi, and Urdu, which are few of the languages most widely used in India. So once we say continue, we have an option to select the language here, which is English, Hindi, and Urdu. So if I go by English, we can customize it by age. So for example, if I say 34 and choose diabetes, blood pressure, we can choose our location. This has come a really good result in terms of what we had entered and what we have received. So I'm really happy with the outcome. What we can also see is the history. So in terms of if we want to make any changes to this, we can go back to the previous version as well. So right now, I would not make any further changes. Talk about what we already have on this. So here we have home, where we have a complete health score, AI insight, so your sleep and understanding from the AI insights, steps, sleeps, water, mood, a very good result in terms of what we asked for and what we've got, and then reminders about medication, some alerts about meals, habits, workout, checkups, all of that. Some things to track about the sleep, weekly steps, So batches, challenges, everything has been literally included here. So what we can do is further make it narrow down. So like here, what the app has done has included literally everything. So if our intent is to narrow it down to one thing, we can enter that as a prompt and that would become about that specific thing there. So even the settings part of it is included here. So that's really good. So yeah, that is mostly about how we can use the tools in terms of getting from AI like designs to code. And here what we can also see is the code. So here is the code. We can literally just copy and paste, and this would be already prototyped, designed, and coded product that can be built. Some quick key takeaways I would say from this session were that AI is here to accelerate, but not replace design thinking. And design to code is a very practical way. The more we try to interact with the tool, the better results it will give us. The more we try to ask it questions as we're asking a friend or we're asking some assistant, the better results it will give us. And prompting is a skill, so it will be better with time. It cannot be the best in a day. So even like the result that we saw now wouldn't have been the same if I would have done that, a few months before, or a few, I would say, couple of even like a few months before. So because it's all learning in progress, so the more you try it, the more better you'll get at it. And one very key thing is that human judgment is still very essential. So we should not consider this that whatever AI is saying and whatever results we are getting from it are at the utmost truth. We should definitely consider that this is what we have, but is it the right thing or not? We should take the final call as humans. So yes, as these tools mature, our responsibility grows as well. The goal is to speed alone, but be responsible, accessible, and build scalable designs. So that is about it, and I hope you all enjoyed the session. And thank you so much. Happy to have shared this with you.
All right. Thank you very much, Pallavi, for this, I don't know, real life experience, top notch tools you're presenting. And thank you for sharing all this. And now we're moving on and we're going to Darren Hood. This guy is talking not about vibe designing, vibe coding, AI, or anything. Can you imagine? Darren Hood is talking today about AI fundamentals. Hear me out. The importance of this talk is just incredible because the role is shifting. Nowadays, and in 1 year or 2 years from today, you'll be more spending time on explaining what to design than just designing tabs or buttons or whatever it is, right? So you'll be communicating more with AI tools or something. So if you are not really good at fundamentals, I can assume your design and your success is quite questionable in future. So it's very important, and thank you very much, Darren. And let's dive deep.
Hello, my name is Darren Hood, and I will be speaking to you today. Welcome to the Geekle Conference. I am going to be talking to you today about the topic of the importance of UX fundamentals. I'm going to be moving a little bit quickly because we don't have a lot of time today, but I want to thank you first off for taking the time to join us here at the conference. We hope you are learning a lot so far. We hope you're getting a lot out of this. But we're going to move forward very, very quickly. I'll introduce myself. There's a couple statements I want to make up front, but we're going to go ahead and dive right in, shall we? So again, the topic today is the importance of UX fundamentals. And I am going to be sharing quite a bit here. It's going to be a little challenging. I'm going to forewarn you up front. This might be a little uncomfortable what I'm going to talk about for some. But if you trust me, if you hang in there, I'm going to give you some things today that's really going to help you move forward as a UX professional. So a little bit about me, and because I think that I need to not only introduce myself, but help you understand why you should listen to me. I know people who take the time to do that. I think it's critical to do that today. On the personal side, because I like to touch on personal stuff, that's me, of course. That's my lovely wife, Angela. There, I've been doing UX since 1995. There's a lot of voices in UX today, but you don't have a lot of people that can actually go back 30 years, 31 years now, to give you insights about the discipline. I'm going to be sharing some historical insights. So I want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. I have two UX related master's degrees, one from Kent State, one from Syracuse University in the United States. I teach at several universities. I taught at that time they're actually shuttering our program, but I taught at Michigan State University, UCLA, Brandeis University, Champlain College, Lawrence Tech in Michigan, which is where I reside in Southfield, Michigan. My wife and I love cats. That's a picture of my cat, Simi. I am an award-winning photographer. It's one of my award-winning photos there. I speak all over the world. I've done TED Talks. I've spoken at Convey UX, World IA Day, Tech Circus. I mentor people all over the world. I get around quite a bit. I have a podcast. It's called The World of UX with Darren Hood. It is approaching its 6th anniversary. It is heard in over 100 countries, and I do share information a lot to help people go forward in the discipline. I'm also one of the co-authors for the book 97 Things Every UX Practitioner Should Know. You can find that anywhere it's published by O'Reilly. So a little bit about my professional footprint. Again, why you should listen. I have worked some of anywhere and everywhere over the course of my career. And so I don't just have a viewpoint of working in one type of industry. I don't have a viewpoint of just doing one type of UX work. It's pretty broad. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time here, but whether it's insurtech, medtech, whether it's working at large digital design agencies, whether it's working, I mean, you name it, I've pretty much been there for the most part. And so just want to make sure to share that because all of this experience between this, my mentoring, my teaching everywhere shapes the types of things that I say, the types of things that I present, and I am trying to vault people forward in the discipline. That is my goal, and that's why I'm here today. Now, I start off every talk by level setting. I think it's important to understand that we don't all have the same definitions in mind. We don't all have the same experiences in mind. So I want to make sure that we're starting off at the same point before I begin to get into the content. So we're going to spend some time here level setting. Now, first and foremost, and a lot of people differ on this, I'm going to present something that might sound new to some of you, but just take it into consideration, not asking you to believe me at face value, but at least consider it and give it a round of critical thinking, if you will. Let's put it that way. So what exactly is UX? Well, a lot of people can't define it. I couldn't define UX for years. And a lot of people try to settle on one definition. I'll tell you right now, there is no one definition of UX. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But what I am going to present to you right now is the fact that when you are defining UX, you need to ask yourself, what aspect of UX are you defining? If you do not explain or consider what you're defining, you are going to commit an error in how you define UX. So I want to present it from two angles. There's UX from the practitioner's perspective, and most of what we're going to do today is going to come from that angle. And then there's UX from the user or the customer's perspective. And when you look at it through either of these two windows, you're going to come up with two different definitions. And so these are the two I like to run with. From the practitioner's perspective, I am the source on this one. UX refers to the set of methods, methodologies, techniques, and deliverables that a UX professional employs to find the sweet spot between user goals, business goals, and various types of constraints, such as in the illustration that you see now. We're always trying to find the sweet spot. If you're leaning more in one direction than the other, you're going to fall short when it comes to doing UX work. And by the way, and you'll see shortly that those methods, methodologies, over 250 of them, you'll see again shortly. From the user and the customer perspective, and this is Nielsen Norman Group's definition from Don Norman and from Jacob Nielsen, It's that which encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So, you see, it depends on where you're coming from. Today, we're talking about UX from the perspective of the practitioner. This is an illustration that I created, 10 years ago. I created this. I'm about to come out with the later version of it. But these are methods, methodologies, techniques, deliverables associated with UX. And so when you look at it this way, this is pretty broad. This is pretty big. It also represents the fundamentals. Giving you a little bit of the end from the beginning, it represents the fundamentals that I'm going to be talking about today and why they are important. So you have what I call the 4 pillars of UX. Sometimes we call it the landscape of UX. You've got heuristics and usability. You've got information architecture. You've got UX research. My picture is over that, but that's talking about UX research in the bottom right-hand corner over there. And then interaction and interface design. These are the 4 pillars. Everything that happens in UX comes back to these 4 pillars. And then there's a lot of elements that are associated with each one. But this basically is what user experience is. UX is a moniker. It's a nickname. And so another thing we need to understand when it comes to UX is that when we're trying to understand what UX is, we need to make sure we understand what it is not. And so UX is not limited to aesthetics. A lot of people think that it is. They think that it comes first. It's not. It's those 250 things. UX is not UI. In other words, there's no such thing as UX UI or UI UX. A lot of people started using that around 2011, 2012 as sort of a knee-jerk reaction because they didn't know how to explain it. And they thought that what we were doing was visual. And that's where that UI, UX, and UX, UI stuff came from. But it really does us a disservice, and it removes the scientific element behind what it is that we do. So I do advise people to not use those acronyms. UX is not just one thing. It's all of those things. You may know a few, you may know a lot, but it's still more than one thing. So please know and understand that. UX is not design thinking. A lot of people said that. I'm not going to talk about that a lot because I'll get on my soapbox, run out of time. We don't want to do that today. Really, really critical. And also UX is not UX if it does not include insights from actual users. So let's keep that in mind today. Now, I want to frame the problem, and then we're going to move sort of quickly here today, and you'll have time to ask me questions later when we have the panel time here. But we're going to frame the problem. Let's show you what's really going on and why we're addressing this topic today. So here's a little bit of a history snapshot of UX. Back in 1993, the first person that ever had the title UX or UX in their job title, I should say, was Don Norman. He was working for Apple's 1993 or so, just something to know. And we did not start using that acronym, by the way, till about 2008, 2009, wholesale, just so you're aware. Around 2001, 2002, after the advent of the internet, not too long after that, we experienced what was called the dot-com bust. And the dot-com bust was critical for us to understand because everybody was rushing to get on the internet, which is when UX actually took off. Everybody was rushing to get on the internet, but things weren't being done right to optimize user experiences. And I like to think that it was UX that came and saved the day because that's when the boom, really, the first big boom of UX positions took place after that. Not too long after that, there was some critical return on investment data from research that was done by IBM and by NASA. And they discovered that for every dollar you invest in UX, you could get up to $100 in return. And a lot of people were excited about that. A lot of people started to see the benefits of UX. And we had another pivot, another big milestone in the discipline. Around 2005 to 2007, UX positions in corporate spaces began to expand. Prior to that, most UX positions were in creative agencies only, and the corporations would hire the agencies to do all of that work for them, but they started to bring that work in-house. Around 2011, 2012, because now you've got this explosion of UX roles, positions at different companies, and when that happened, Well, you didn't have enough people to fill the positions. People thought they had to go to college, but you really didn't have to go to college. You still don't to get a position in UX, but boot camps launched. And some people were saying, yay, boot camps. And then actually, some of you already know me. You know what I'm going to say? That was not a good thing. And I'll explain a little bit why later. Specializations. There were no specializations, no misinformation in UX either prior to 2011, 2012. And from 2013 to 2020, specializations started to come on the scene where people specialized in interaction design. They specialized in UX research. They specialized in different things because earlier on, if you were in UX, you did everything. There was no, I want to do design, I want to do research, and that was it. No, if you had a UX position, you did all the things. Now we fast forward to 2026, and now the discipline is oversaturated with people looking for work. Now I'll explain why all these things are critical. Now, you see these asterisks? These asterisks are when fundamentals, which were key early in UX, the emphasis on fundamentals, the perceived importance of fundamentals slowly began to decline. Along with that decline, there were some other problems. And again, we'll get into that a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want you to be aware of where these asterisks are. Now, here's where the dominoes fall. Let's break down how these dominoes fell and what happened with them. Again, UX openings began skyrocketing around the world. There weren't enough qualified people to fill these openings. UX boot camps were established with the hope that people could become qualified in less time and for less money than a college degree. Boot camps, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it was, and for a fraction of the cost. But boot camps were not really equipped, nor were they really committed to performing the rigors, because formal education is a rigorous process. And they were not really equipped or committed to perform those rigors associated with the educational process. So now we've got a gap. We've got a performance gap. We've got a knowledge gap that has been introduced. Also, some people, they were either going to college and getting a degree, they were going to boot camps, trying to do things the right way. But there was also, because people started hearing about all these roles and what these roles were paying in UX, many people began to fabricate their way into UX roles. Again, fundamentals being pushed further into the background as a result. Some larger educational institutions began offering shortcuts to UX success. A lot of them felt that they were competing with boot camps. So now, again, the emphasis on fundamentals takes another step backwards. The anxiety to fulfill or fill openings led to companies massively hiring unqualified people to run. These are just facts, folks. Please don't get upset at me. I'm just a messenger. I'm telling you what I've seen. Massively hiring unqualified people to run and fill space and spots on their UX teams. Again, another degradation of fundamentals. The lower barrier of entry, deprecation of learning experience, this resulted in a massive pivot away from UX fundamentals. Not good for anybody. And so more people were filling the roles, but value to a great extent because of the lack of emphasis on and understanding of appreciation for fundamentals, value dropped across the discipline. That is huge. Here's some of the things I've heard. Again, just the messenger, folks, is what I've heard people say. You talk about fundamentals to folks, how important they are. Somebody once said, fundamentals? That's old school. Why would I want to learn those? Another person said, I don't want to learn fundamentals. I just want to learn Figma. This really happened, folks. It's really happened. Some of you may have heard the same thing. One person once said, fundamentals are for dinosaurs. I just need to know how to churn out screens. That's all my team needs. So fundamentals have been pushed to the background. They've been deemed as unimportant by some people, and it could not be further from the truth. And to reemphasize something, those earlier phases when Don Norman was doing the work at Apple, when the dot-com bust, when we overcame that, just look at Amazon, where they are today. Invested millions in UX. And that's why they're there, and you don't see Borders, you don't see Barnes and Noble, you don't see some of those other venues that were doing the same thing as Amazon. Amazon committed themselves to optimizing user experiences. That's why they are where they are. And then around the time that ROI data came from NASA and from IBM, fundamentals, folks, fundamentals. Those were big at the time. So again, why are they so important? Now, I already told you what the fundamentals are: heuristics, usability, information architecture, research, interaction design, and interface design. Yes, UI, GUI is a part of UX. It's a subset as long as you're using UX principles in the process. If somebody's just a visual designer, that's what they are, a visual designer. So what are the benefits of UX fundamentals? Well, fundamentals are the backbone of a UX professional's operation. Fundamentals empower UX professionals to excel at our craft. Fundamentals serve as the scientific base of who and what we are. Fundamentals are a major strategic factor, providing UXers with the ability to navigate and solve problems accurately and efficiently. And then the big one, if you remove the fundamentals from UX, we just become order takers and visual designers. Critical. Fundamentals are key. They make us who we are. Let's look at some quick examples of contrast. On the fundamental side, if you're working on design and navigation specifically, you use IA principles and information architecture principles to optimize information sense and navigation. You're embracing fundamentals. If you try to do the same thing and you don't have fundamentals, you're without fundamentals, you'll blindly place poorly labeled items in navigation with no research to confirm that it really works. Fundamentals, no fundamentals. With fundamentals, you can use heuristics to guide initial design efforts. You can design knowing what heuristics are so you know what's going to work. Heuristics can be used to find up to 90% of what's wrong with any given design. So they're really, really important, especially if you use it to inform your work. Or if you don't have the fundamentals, you make design decisions based on personal preference, and that is going to make shipwreck. That's not going to work. You can use requirements to determine what problem to solve and identify the best solutions when you're using fundamentals. But approaching the same thing, if you don't, you hear what somebody's asking for, you'll just throw it in Figma Make and quickly design something. No user-centered design principles apply whatsoever. That's not going to work. And for the record, Figma Make is that's dangerous in the wrong hands, just so you're aware. So let's wrap up. So we've got some closing notes and a challenge. I'll just rehash a few things here. Now, UX, again, remember, it refers to the set of methods, methodologies, techniques, and deliverables that a UX professional employs to find the sweet spot between user goals, business goals, and various types of constraints. In the earlier years of UX, fundamentals were a staple and a critical foundation in the practitioner's toolbox. Parallel with the decline in UX's value, in the past 14 to 15 years, fundamentals have been cast aside as old school with a preference for tools and visuals. Not good. You'll get a paycheck, you'll get hired, but it will eventually fail. To develop one's acumen, it is critical that people identify, learn, and embrace UX fundamentals. When proper value is placed on UX fundamentals across the discipline, we can restore its respect and its upward trajectory. And again, repeating that other key point, if you remove the fundamentals from UX, we're just order takers and visual designers. I'm sure we all want to be more than that today. Now, I did mention a challenge. So we're going to wrap up with this challenge quickly, showing you this illustration again, the 4 pillars or the landscape of UX, whichever you want to call it. Pick something. Pick something in this illustration, something that you know you need to develop in, something you know you need to get better at. I'll give you a couple moments here, a few seconds to be more specific, a few seconds. Pick something, pick something, pick something. And then I'm going to give you an equation. This comes from my model of the UX cycle of excellence. And let's go ahead and move into that quickly. Pick that topic. And whatever that topic is, I want you to evaluate yourself over time, not just today. Not going to do this today, but something you can do over time. You can do it after the talk is done here. You can do it after the conference. You can do it, keep doing this throughout your career. You can give yourself up to 2.5 points for 4 categories associated with that topic. How aware are you? What is your ability to communicate in an informed way about that topic? How good are you at applying that topic to your work? And what would you really accurately consider your level of skill to be? So the difference between the last two is how good are you actually in doing it at work, and do you apply it to your work? And then just an overall skill. You add those up, A plus B plus C plus D, it comes out to a high score of 10. But what it does is it helps you understand what your personal UX maturity level is concerning that topic. And so no matter what the score is, you see where you are, what you need to maintain, or where you are, and it lets you know, you know what? Yeah, I definitely need to grow in this area. I only scored a 4. There's an area of growth for me. And then accept the challenge and move forward. And when you do this with the fundamentals, that's what can vault you forward as a practitioner. Remember, everybody needs a foundation, and that's what fundamentals are. They're a foundation to who you are in UX. Embrace that today. Have a strong foundation. Accept the challenge to embrace UX fundamentals and recognize the importance that they have for you as a practitioner and all of us as a discipline. All right, that's it, folks. Told you I was going to move fast. That's it. Hope to see you at the Q&A later. Until next time, check out the podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Enjoy, everybody. Thanks again for taking the time to join us today. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. And well, that was just amazing, right, guys? I mean, yeah, everybody needs foundation. And thank you, Darren, for this framework for evaluating ourselves. Even me, I'm not considering myself a designer. I'm more on the product side, but nowadays I vibe code a lot. I build products end to end, and I really feel like I'm not really understanding what I'm doing in terms of design and user experience. And yes, I'll go check myself and evaluate and probably accept this challenge. Thank you very much again. And our next speaker is Victor Churchill. Victor is sharing something incredible about how exactly you should leverage those AI tools for real life design pipelines. Victor has great experience. He's the right person to hear about this, processes. All right, beat the blank page and turn AI into your execution partner. Let's go.
Hi everyone, welcome to my session. I hope you get to learn a couple things from this session. As designers, have you ever looked at a completed project and then you go back, remember when you started the project, and remember how difficult it was or how challenging it was to start off at the very beginning? You're faced with this blank canvas at the very start where you need to create something out of nothing. You just need to come up with something, share with stakeholders, share with your product team, and drive the entire concept from start to the end. We know how difficult it can get, which is the reason why I'm sharing this with us, how we can beat the blank page and turn AI into an execution partner, especially in the age of AI boom and AI era. I'll be sharing with us practical ways as designers we can harness AI tools to start and evolve product design. A little bit about myself. My name is Victor Churchill. I'm a product designer at Orb Innovations. Orb Innovation is a sport tech company that produces mouthguard and provide ways for athletes, combat and contact athletes to track their metrics during training and competition for effective practice and improvement for their games. I've been designing product experiences for well over 9 years. I've designed experiences and product within health tech, logistics, fintech, and sport tech solution, as I'm doing right now. I'm based here in London, and I also judge designs for the BIG Awards. I'll be shifting a little bit of narrative on using AI as an inspiration tool to using AI as an execution accelerators in real design workflow. My agenda here is sharing with us how we can move from using AI as a passive user to a more power user as designers. Excuse me. I'll be sharing with us the real problem with blank pages, what AI can do to them, the two modes for AI in design, the workflow for solo designers, integrating with your design system, and then NCP server in practice and rapid prototyping handing off to your developers. So what's the real problem with blank pages? The thing here is that most designers do not like ideas. They just lack the starting momentum. At the very beginning, being faced with a blank page, starting off the project where you need to find more resources, you need to check competitor ideas, find out what the competitors are doing, and use that to come up with something, come up with a strong concept. And I mean, in the past, we've had platforms like Dribble, Behance, whereby we can see what other people are doing and can get some design inspiration. And recently, Mobbing, where we can see more realistic applications of what people are doing and gain some inspiration. But the challenge here is not just the fact that we get some of this inspiration. Is that by the time we gather some of these resources, these screenshots into our design and want to start off our implementation, we often have to start drawing rectangles. Especially if you have to start up a new project. You need to start drawing up the color and all of that, setting up the rectangles, starting up all over from the beginning. But this time with a little bit of an idea of what you're working on. But with the rise of AI, there is a better way to improve that experience. Right now, there are available tools that can generate design layout and even code ready draft. I know most of us have already played around with tools like Lovable, Replit, and a lot more, maybe like Figma Make, Magic Patterns, UX Pilot. But the unique thing here is not just having these tools available for us to use. What is unique here is how you can improve your experience as designers, how you can improve the way you work as designers. You don't have to use these tools as an inspiration tool and then you want to see how this concept looks if I use this AI to generate it. But rather, after generating your concept, after prompting it to what you need, you can actually bring in the draft or those concepts into your design workflow. You can bring it into your design page. So you can extract it using tools like maybe UX Pilot or even Figma Make. You copy your design and then you bring it into your workflow and then you continue from there. I'll get to share with us, for those who are not so familiar with this workflow yet, I'll get to share with us how you can bring it in and then also move a few steps ahead from there. The next thing I want to share with us is the different modes we use AI at the moment and how it could be helpful for us. The exploratory mode and the anchor mode. The exploratory mode is where many of us, get to generate designs very quickly, especially if you're starting newly. We'll get to come up with different new concepts. We can try different layouts, just to get additional inspiration on what you're working on, to align, get some different edge cases ironed out before you start out your project. There's also an anchor mode whereby you want to provide a little bit more context, especially if you already have existing projects you're working on. For solo designers, the practical workflow right now, you can prompt to editable frames. But what does this mean? What it means is that once you write your structured prompt, whatever you need as an outcome, you generate the screenshot from different AI alternatives, and then you can bring the layouts into your Figma design, which is nice. And then iteratively refine this based on your own style. You can decide to manually design it the way you want it. There's also an additional workflow for designers who already are working with existing systems. What if you're not working on a brand new project? You're working on a project that's already existing. There's already available design system. There's a guide, a brand guide, a style guide, there are principles or component rules you need to work with while creating new features. How do you get to use the AI to create something that is a bit more tangible to you? Do you start afresh from scratch and prompt it to understand what you need? You need to share with it that these colors are the colors you need to need. You need to, for every time you want to use it, provide context on how the button size should be. For this set of designers, this is where MCP comes in, the Model Context Protocol. Right now, or last year, you have Figma introduced the MCP server. What this does is exposes structured design context from your Figma design. So all of those hierarchies of your different component structure, your tokens, your variables, your buttons, your different components, you can bring it into AI tools. They understand how it is structured and use that context to provide design concepts for you based on your prompt, which aligns consistently based on what is already available within your design system. It does not have to create anything different, but it aligns based on what is available within your design system. But how the MCP looks to be a little bit of a more technical word, but that is how MCP works in essence. Consider you have a laptop with multiple ports, or you have a laptop with a port and you need to connect multiple tools to it, or you need to connect multiple devices to it. Then you have a USB port. If you have this dongle, it serves more like an MCP, whereby you can connect multiple laptops to it. That is typically what MCP is within the software world. With MCP, you're able to connect your Figma design to any tool you're working with, be it cloud, be it cloud code, or any tool you're working on. This enables it to come up with output that aligns to your system constraints, outputs that are faster for a developer to actually understand and for you to hand off to your developers. They come up with meaningful, reusable, and existing components. Right now, Figma has made MCP available for a wide range of tools that we could use. A lot of vibe coding tools that we can use to test or come up with different AI concepts that can read the structured design data, generate clean and more accurate code patterns for developers, and also reduce the manual translation error. How we go about trying to describe to AI what it needs to create, how it needs to structure it. How about sharing the link directly from your Figma and it understands where and how it needs to get done. So right now, if you're using VS Code, Cursor, Cloud Code, Cloud, and a couple of other tools like as you can see on the screen, or Replit, WAP, and a whole range of other tools available here, and even more. Figma has a way of connecting you directly to these tools where you prompt your designs into action and it aligns with any design reference you've connected to it through MCP. But we're going to dive deep to see how it works. So we can use any of these tools to come up with whatever we want to come up with, and also integrate into our existing project. Yeah, but initially I shared that we've moved past the design inspiration stage, whereby you just bring in designs and start from afresh, just use them as methods of inspiration. So I took time to prompt this UI into action on Figma Make. It's just a normal web page or a UI where you can go to any city, search for tourist spots, and it basically comes up with locations you're looking for, and then filters it based on what categories are of your interest. Maybe like you're looking for museum, entertainment, or maybe more like a fine dine and all of that. So, but what I wanted to share here is the ability to copy the design and then bring it into your design from Figma Make and bring it into your workspace. So here I can paste this here, and then if I go back to where I have the all, copy the design just from here, I bring it into my page, paste it here, and then I can decide to modify this the way I want it. So ideally, if I had this as a source of inspiration from tools like Dribble and all of that, I would have to reconfigure it from start. But right now, I can pick everything and break everything down right into what I want. I check the measurement. I can redesign this page based on how I want it. If I wanted this to change, I could change the color directly in my Figma file. So it's not just a mere source of inspiration. It's more like bringing in editable files and then resizing it. I can decide to change the background of this from this color down to this, down to like blue. And you see how unique this could be, and it already moves your workspace to another level where you can get to add and improve your experience. But more detailed information I wanted to share with us is how we can make use of the MCP server. So if just as a way of note, the MCP server is available to full paid dev paid or full seat users on Figma who can actually access the dev mode. So if you go back to the dev mode, let me disable it. So if you have your system, if you go back to, from design get to dev mode, you should be able to see it from here, right? And then you pick any language or code setting. But here, this is the Figma MCP. So you Figma MCP with your favorite coding agent to get design context into your workflow. So if you're having to prompt anything, really, you can decide to set it up from here. So if you set it up here, you can decide if you are using if it's enabled, you can decide if you're using a local server or if you want to use a remote server. So remote server is where you can actually, the difference between a remote server and local server is if you have your maybe like your code, your cloud code or your VS code open, and you're directly inside there, you can point to this with your local host. I'm trying to make this less technical as possible. But if you're using a remote server, you can actually copy a link to a particular design you're looking for and use that to work with it. So for example, once you've had that enabled, so if you set local server or any or also enable code connect, this gets it enabled right from here. So let's see how we can utilize this to actually prompt or create new designs. So this way we can actually get to connect our MCP product or MCP direct to our designs and make it more aligned. And with this, you can actually iterate on your prototypes and detect unexpected states and spend less time working on things that are less important and finding out what is actually important, going through the iterative process whereby you design, you come up with concept, actually go with prototype, and then with this code you hand it over to the developers and they can actually get to see practical ways they can actually implement, and it's more clear-cut, visible for them to implement. There is more synergy, there's more communication in terms of design language between stakeholders, what you implement fast, prototype fast with these tools for them to see, and what you hand off to developers in terms of actual implementation code, which they can refine if they want to, and you handle the edge cases on your designs and usability issues, and spend less time with balancing communication. Yeah, it also improves the ability to provide evidence-based designs and making it easy to communicate whatever you're working on from the beginning down to the end. So this helps provide you early feedbacks, because once you have these early prototypes, you don't need to drop most of those wires within Figma prototype. You can just use these tools to prototype your design into action and then hand it over to developers. So let's go over to the do's and don'ts. So make sure to treat your AI output as first draft, and also provide clear constraints. Keep your design decisions at human level. The tools can help you implement concepts and all of that, but the design thinking is still left to you. The creativity lies in you, so keep it at a very human level. Think about it, get feedback from your users, and move with them. Align your guidelines and company policy and assets. So depending on the kind of organization you work with, you might have certain AI policies, design, or maybe things you can make available to AI. So just find out those policies and make sure you align to them. And do not use AI as a final design generator. Do not come up with AI and go present it. Make sure you refine it. Make sure it aligns with what you're looking for and stakeholder requirement. Do not give it a lot of power to override your design system. Make sure you are monitoring and observing what it's doing, and do not confuse speed with quality. Always double check and make sure that whatever the AI is outputting, you're always double checking with your existing brand guideline, design system, or certain expectations to be sure they align with what you're looking for. And also, do not replace research and user understanding with AI. So there's a place where you provide more information, but also go further to find out. These tools help us build what we want to build fast. So right now, we get to understand that we can actually implement fast. We can build prototype, we can design and build fast. So, but then the ability to understand what to build, what to design, that understanding lies in you to balance different communication level, communicate, find out, research, communicate with users, find out what they need, find out the pain point, and then go ahead to implementing them. So the last takeaway I'll drop here is that AI to remove friction and no decision making. It reduces that level of challenge or friction you would have at the very, very, very start to implement something, but you still have to spend time, deciding on what to make. It's a partner in execution and not a replacement for expert thinking. So here, it brings your expertise, your level of experience, and your capability into it, and then improve and actually give you the expected outcome. I look forward to your questions and any comments. Thank you.
Well, yes. Thank you very much, Victor. And thank you very much to everyone who was listening to us. And let me just invite my speakers back to the stage because I have plenty of interesting questions, people, from our audience, from myself, from we sent the just let me yeah. Thank you very much. The sessions to our committee, and we have these questions. And why don't we probably just start from the first announcement, guys? Right, I'm speaking to those people who are in this stream right now. If you need recordings, hey, come back. If you need recordings of this summit, I know price is quite high now, and if you cannot afford this, just once more, this tickets, just send us to email to events@geekle.us saying, hey, I can't afford it. I need some recordings, and we will handle it for you with scholarship or whatever programs we have. So just reach us out again, events@geekle.us. So the next we're going to our questions, and let me pull this question up for you, Pallavi. And this one is, how does the pipeline handle manual code changes made by developers after the AI generates the initial version? Is it maintainable at all?
The interesting question. So I would say what developers to post the AI generated code is not related to AI at that point. That would then be handled by developers. So once, how does the AI pipeline, how does the pipeline handle manual code changes? Is, as I would say, manually it is developed, manually coded, and once the once, for example, an AI has generated a design and that design has a code, once that code has made some manual additions to it, that will reflect on the design itself. So it is like a to and fro process, I would say. Manual additions to the code would implement on the design. Likewise, if there are some design changes, that would come on the code. So once there are manual additions, that becomes the developer's job also, not too much from the AI. Also from that came in from the other speakers, consider AI as the starting point and not as the ultimate decision making, ultimate tool for
Right.
the end result. So yeah, ultimately it's the developer's job to work on the code and not so much from the AI's perspective.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for this answer. And I feel like this is kind of one of pivotal moments for the industry and especially for design. So much new stuff we see here,
For
and
sure.
this AI generates
I would
everything.
definitely call this a revolution, a time of a revolution where there are lots of changes, there are lots of new things happening, and it will be a good time to see post 6, 5, 7 years where we see some changed new way of
Right.
working at.
Yeah, but I guess you, Darren, so lots of those revolutions come and go, right? So this is just another revolution. Am I right?
Sure.
Let's see. How do you convince a manager who only values speed to market? Oh man, we see that way too much. Way too much, and that'll get me on my UX maturity soapbox, so I will avoid that. But we have to stick to our guns. Matter of fact, our the episode of the podcast that went out today, where I started talking about harsh realities of UX maturity, and I there's a segment where I talk about how we need to understand what we're doing, understand how it should be done. You stick to your guns about certain things. There's certain things you've got to do, you've got to reinforce. There's certain areas where you can afford to compromise, but we don't, UX people, we don't control the tempo. We don't make the final decisions. And so all we can do is give our recommendations. Make sure you document. Save your life, cover your butt. Document, because when we know what we need to do in order to achieve success, when it fails, and if somebody rushes too much, there's way too many stories about people going too fast. Speed is overrated. One of the benefits of UX is that we reduce development costs. Well, we eliminate rework, unnecessary rework. So when we say, no, we need to slow down just a little bit, it's faster to wait 2 weeks and get it right than to get it out now and then have to go back to the table and then have all this lost goodwill because customers are upset with us because you lied to them because your design looked good, but it didn't work well. That's the equivalent of a lie. So it's more beneficial to slow things down just a little bit. We tell them that, we reinforce it. If they decide to ignore us, we've done our job. And that's it. We don't have the ability to say, no, we're going to do this. We don't have the ability to do that. So that's just the reality of being in UX. One of the painful aspects of being UX, and there is some pain that you do have to endure if you're going to do this right. So that's my answer for that.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. And moving on. Victor, back to you. If AI generates code-ready drafts and it doesn't match your team's code guides, will developers spend more time cleaning the AI code than they would spend writing it manually?
Check.
Hear me fine?
Yeah. So thanks for the for big shout out to the already existing speakers. Yeah, it's quite interesting in the age of AI. You come up with the goal is to move fast, really, and especially when it comes to implementation, and when you hand off to your developers for them to relate to what you've already worked on, right? Um, at the very beginning, especially if you are getting to work with AI, you could, especially with the MCP I shared, you could get to speak or tell the AI the stack you're working with your developers. So if you're working with JavaScript, HTML or Vue, depending on the stack you're working with your team, you could tell the AI to actually write the code in that stack. So if you're working with JavaScript, it gets to interpret and work with that for you and for your team. And in this age, I mean, the line is getting a little bit thinner, but your team have to actually spend time look at the code syntax. I mean, even if you bring a JavaScript code from one company to another company, they look very different because of the code structure, the guidelines, and all of that. So it's more like looking at if you align with the design system guidelines that your team is using to develop your product or your project, and then also look at the code structure. So ideally is to at this very beginning is to help help your team understand the structure, because sometimes we get to hand off designs to developers, and at the end of the day, what you design is not what they develop. It looks different from the design concept and then what's being implemented, right? So this handoff process, generating a code ready structure for your developers is more like to help them see, okay, this is a banner, and this is the structure. This is what I want it to look like, right? They might not necessarily be what they should implement or what the code they should push to the production, but it's to give them a guide on how to actually go after implementing it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. You can feel it, how it intersects code and design even more and more. And man, Doran, when you mentioned it's better to wait for 2 weeks more and make it better, like I felt a stroke actually. 2 weeks, maybe for some huge enterprise, or I don't know, like super rich guys, it works. But how it can work for small projects, man, I don't know. Because why the reason why I'm saying this is because we have this Geekle AI Labs is actually lots of small projects with small teams or solo founders who are building AI projects or AI tools under the mentorship of experienced AI engineers, right? And we struggle with design, of course. It's always someone gets stuck on perfection and someone gets some super shitty design where you don't even kind of understand what to do next in this interface. So, but it all happens so quickly. It's so because of vibe coding, of course, right? So they call those projects in 2 weeks. So how is it possible to wait for 2 weeks now?
Oh, I can. I was sort of laughing thinking about the answer to that. That's why fundamentals are so important. If you bring somebody like me in, not necessarily with my level of experience, but somebody who respects fundamentals, who's using heuristics to inform the design, you're going to move faster automatically because we already know what the pitfalls are. I just threw 2 weeks out there as an example, but I'm not used to things being slowed down. I've never seen, I heard somebody say once that UX, folks have probably heard it before, UX, they're bottlenecking what we're doing. In 30 years, I've never seen UX bottleneck anything. Matter of fact, we make it go faster and you deploy with more confidence because I'm better than Captain Spitball. Captain Spitball just throws things out there. They're living in the land of the stickies. And they're just doing things because they're usually an order taker that's jumping because somebody else is telling them to jump. I'm trying to do it right. I operate from a perspective of ethics. Ethics includes speed with doing things the right way. And so when you do that, risk mitigation was on that illustration I showed you. Error mitigation. I'm trying to mitigate things. So because of that, I'm going to move faster.
Right.
Now,
Okay.
somebody else, they're going to throw it in Figma Make and they look fast. It's not fast when you do when you put the rework on it.
All right.
Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm thinking even about like some workshop or I don't know, mini course on UI UX design for vibe coders, because those guys are new and they really build cool stuff, and they have users, they have some revenue even, and they really they move fast, and but they want to know how to cook it right. So probably we should think about this.
It's needed. It's much needed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and that's costly.
Absolutely. Maybe it's for small projects, it's not that costly. It's more about like you stalking, you doubting, you slowing down, you're reworking, you're moving this button like all the way, like the screen. Why?
Yeah. If you compare a project with a bunch of rework with a project that was done with more expertise and more definitiveness, the rework project costs. When I say it costs more, that's where it keeps, and it just keeps happening and it keeps adding up. Then you get all the support tickets. There's a cost with all the support tickets. Lost competitive advantage.
Right.
That's cost. So when you look at that, the cost over time, the project that employed more fundamentals and expertise costs less.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's move on. We have a bunch of questions. Pallavi, can these AI tools be restricted to use only a company's existing private design system components?
Yes, the short answer to that is yes. So, because this was a segment with a particular duration, I did not include that. But if I may give it like an example, what we can do as an add-on to any kind of like any kind of a tool like Lovable or even Figma Make or these prototyping tools, we can add on an existing design system to the prompt, like add on as that as a PDF or some any kind of a file format to the prompt, and that will be picked up from the tool itself. So for example, if you have seen recent examples of things that are being developed by these tools, you will see the designs to look very familiar. Like for example, what Claude is generating, what Lovable, Dev Zero are looking very similar to each other. So the one thing that is to break it is to bring in a design system. So a few days back, I was part of one hackathon where we were supposed to work on a product with an AI tool, and what the result out of it was that most of the things that came out in the end looked very similar, even though the functionalities of it were different, but it looked like it belonged to the same design system. So the one thing that was a definite takeaway was that we need to integrate design systems on these tools, and not just build out of from a cloud. So
that's
if we are
what we
taking that, yeah, so add on design systems to your tools while you're building it for a particular product or a particular company, for sure.
Then you come to the website and say, oh yeah, that's an early bolt, and this was probably from Lovable.
Yes, you can make it out. Like you can really make out which tool have the person used if it's an AI tool, for sure.
Oh, it still works, but
Mhm.
All right, let's move on. And Victor, AI makes layout looks correct, but how to prevent logical hallucinations? Where a flow looks beautiful, that's what we mentioned before, but it's actually impossible for users to complete.
Yeah, I think this is quite related to what Darren was actually speaking earlier. These AI tools are there to make us move fast. So let's say you're on a team, you really need to show concept of what you're working on. At the very beginning, we had a way of creating sketches, to show to people to really understand what we are trying to say, before you get to actually start creating stuff. Right now, this tool helps us to generate the concept, especially if you want to share to stakeholders to understand what you're trying to say. But then when you want to, they look nice, they look more real. You can test with it. People can click buttons rather than using papers and all of that to sketch and all of that. Right now, it looks more realistic. But when you want to ship to users, when you want to actually push, you need to do a lot of testing. So essentially what you shared earlier with the vibe coding, I used to share with people who vibe code and push product. That whenever you come up with a product, it's really nice that we have AI to actually help us move fast. But when you ship, there's a place of testing going in. You have to test the product sufficiently, get feedback, understand what's happening with your product, iteratively test and improve. That's the part where you get feedback from people using the product, understand what's working, what's not working, what you need to advance, what you need to retract on your product. It's that point that kind of changed the pivot, right? Where you pivot a working product that could work for users and something that you just vibe code. Because when you vibe code, you might hit at some point, you might hit a glass ceiling. You get 100 users. After 100 users, you get to see a lot of drop off from your product or from what you've already created. And once you hit 150, you're wondering what's happening. It's because you just created a product. A couple of people find it useful, but it's not really as useful, as important as it may seem to them. So that place of getting feedback, improving it, it's
Right.
where the pivot really lies, in getting the product from the vibe code and actually getting to what the user would use and what's useful to the users. Yeah.
Yeah. You can afford by doing anything until you get fired, or if you are the only person in the project, you're okay, you're totally okay, you can do anything you want. But once it comes to responsibility, once it comes to accountability, oh yeah, you need to double check everything, test, and be very careful. Absolutely. But still, it speeds
All
up,
right.
no doubt. It speeds up processes really great. And Darren, how do UX fundamentals fit into 2 week agile sprint where where there is no sprint zero for deep research or heuristics?
Okay, interesting question. I've done this several times in my career, especially in companies that were very, very agile oriented. First thing I'd say is there are always heuristics. Heuristics are proven principles, best practices, and common conventions, most of which were based on research done over time. So people have 1,000 different experiences. They use Amazon and they run over here and they use this website and they run over here and they use this and they use this mobile app and they do something on their TV. And so we're talking about how the brain works. And that's what factors into heuristics. I actually did a project once for a company where I was brought in, met with the team, and they had people were making these customized wall designs, and they could go in, upload their own graphics, create the thing, they ship it to them, you put it on the wall, picture of your kid or whatever it was playing soccer, you could put up on the wall. But people were going and you could buy images of the actual athletes or you could do your custom, and people were going into this custom app or this custom process, and they were abandoning it. The abandonment rate, if I remember correctly, was something like 80-85%. They were wondering why. So they brought me in. They walked me through the whole process. They showed me what was going on, where things were being abandoned. I'm like, wow, okay, I already saw what was going on. I went back to my desk. I'll be back in touch in 3 days. I performed a heuristic analysis. There was no deep research. Jacob Nielsen has a heuristic model. Abby Covert has one that is specified to be for information architecture. It is not. It's applicable across the board. Susan Weinshank and Dean Barker. There are several heuristic models out there, proven principles, best practices. You can find, Nielsen Norman said, you can find up to 90% of what's wrong with any design by heuristics. Heuristics is grouped as a research type of an engagement. So you always have heuristics. Always. There's never a time that you don't have heuristics. I fixed that problem. I went back, told the team, I made 2 findings through heuristics, and abandonment went from 85% to like 10% in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I've done that several times in my career. Interestingly, because fundamentals are poo-pooed off by a lot of people and they don't know the heuristics. You've got a large volume of people in UX today that reject heuristics, don't want to learn heuristics, don't want to hear you talk about anything. Somebody took my heuristic talk that I delivered at Michigan State once back to their team because they were so impressed by it, and their team revolted.
Wow.
They wanted nothing to do with it. And this is for a large creative agency in the States. So
wow.
People don't, you can, and you know how much money you save doing heuristic? It's known as, what is it? Budget usability is what some people refer to heuristics as. So I use it. It's the first thing out of my toolbox, whether it's a design or a redesign, first thing out of the toolbox, because it also informs research. Because you only have to do research a heuristic when you need to manage internal politics. Other than that, the heuristic, you got it and you go. You got it and you go. You got it and you go.
Absolutely. Yes. I buy it totally. I'm going to go and learn it because, it sounds like a silver bullet for lots of my pains in my products. And let's now move on to you, Pallavi. How do you verify the accuracy of the competitive analysis and SWOT analysis, probably, by AI before designing? Read manually or some additional prompts?
Okay, so yes, very good question, I would say. So research is one part which should be, again, started with AI, but definitely have an add-on to what we already know about it, what we have done from understanding the market with not just AI, but a proper desk research that we do otherwise as well. So AI should be the starting point of research, but not the only point of research. It should be validated with the traditional ways as well. What AI should help us with is, so probably if we are taking, say, 5 hours to pinpoint the resources that we need to validate things, to find out things, AI would help us do that in 5 minutes. It will give us all the links that we need, the data that we need in less than minutes. So that is what it will help us with. But validation is definitely what we need to do on our own, and we should not treat that as the ultimate truth, is what I also said while I was giving the talk. So the validation is definitely manual. It shouldn't be relied upon AI. It's the time that it's helping us with. Like if we were supposed to go to a library, say, for before 25 years, it came to the computers, then it came to AI now. So that is decreasing the time. Right. It shouldn't be decreasing our efforts.
Right. And when I hear this, like my work of 2 days is now compressed in 2 minutes. That's why I always remember why humans will always stay in the loop and we'll have our jobs, because who will be responsible for those 2 minutes generated work? Like, oh, sorry, that's my AI. Yeah, who's gonna be responsible? The CEO? No, man. Again, thank you very much. My direct boss responsible for what I generated, or AI. No, they want me to be responsible. So when it generates in 10 minutes something, I would want to spend like maybe 30 minutes more to read that and edit, because like, who knows how much hallucination going there.
Yeah, I would actually add to that. Like sorry, if I may.
Like, go on, go
Sometimes
on.
it's
Yeah,
all.
please.
Sometimes it's also that once we are having a conversation with any kind of a AI tool, it starts giving us answer that is sort of favoring us. Like in terms of just to understand, like give us answers that we would want to listen. So it
Yeah.
kinds of have an uh, give like it comes from that perspective. So it's not always supposed to be taken in that capacity also. So
Mm-hmm.
keep your eyes and brain open at all times when you're using AI.
It's not about truth at all. Yes, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question is to you, Victor. If execution time is cut by 80% using AI, what we just said, how should design agencies shift their billing models? Nice question. To ensure they are paid for their experience rather than just their hours, because they know heuristics and all these fundamentals.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Just to borrow a little bit from Darren, what Darren shared. I mean, when you already have understanding and have an experience of something, and you've done something multiple times over and over again, there's the place of experience, expertise that comes from it, right? So what AI is helping us do is to move fast and all of this. But in terms of billing models and all of that, it's really depends on the how you structure your team and all of that. But if you are looking at getting your product, if you want to arrive at a solution and you want to get a concept fast, your process should also still get you there. But it's the point, the place of validating what you're looking for. You're validating the idea, validating the concept, validating the product, getting it out is still one point, or one layer or one foundation you have to actually research on. You have to provide, take, push it out there to the users, really. So it's totally lights up to you and your team, really. I can't really tell that, but it's just left to the level of effort it takes. I think Pallavi also mentioned that it doesn't take away the speed, does not take away the work that needs to be done. It does not take away the effort, right? It just helps you move from A to B really fast and understand what mistakes that could be made, and then you make that mistakes fast and then move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone to add, Darren? I know you have something.
Yeah. You charge for the AI also. That's how you somebody's got to pay for that bill on that technology. It wasn't free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
involved in billing for years and years, and I don't want to tell my age, but I go all the way back to the management consulting years before the big four, the big eight became the big four. I used to run a word processing department for Arthur Young in the 80s. So I know about billing. I know a lot about billing. And if you replace time with a technology that enhances, then there's a price. And you make sure that that's part of the sales process to the customer, that, hey, we're using this AI now, and that's going to be factored in. So the fact that people are doing things in less time doesn't mean, I mean, you don't have to look for something. You've got it. You get this AI, pay for it. Make the customer pay for it.
Sure. Yeah, and the other part of this, well, agencies has to be honest. If what AI generates nothing better than what they do, like, then there is a problem. Then
it's clearly visible if it's AI generated.
for
Yeah.
now, because what it generates today and what it was generating like 2 years ago
Yeah,
or a
that will
year
be
ago,
different.
right?
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
different with this Google Nana Banana. It's insane. It's crazy, right? But let's take a look at 2027 or 8.
Yeah.
Like, so, but still, like, we need to be honest on that, right?
Yeah. Just don't do what Deloitte did.
What they did.
What did they did a bunch of work with AI, and I can't remember some of the details, but it was wrong. So the experts did not come in and validate what AI did, and they paid back. Well, I can't remember $400,000 they had to refund because they did. You're going to do AI. You got to be ethical.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They got burned twice. You can find the news stories out there. They got burned twice already.
Ouch. Ouch. And the last for today goes to you, Darren. Can a tool like Figma be used to enforce UX fundamentals, or is the software inherently designed to prioritize visuals over logic?
Absolutely not. A tool is a tool. A tool is a tool is a tool is a tool, and a tool without an expert at the helm is going to be a shipwreck. You're going to have a Titanic situation on your hand. We did a little experiment, somewhat as a joke. We took a fantastic, expensive saw, a wonderful paint gun, some other type of tool, any tool, any tool, and give it to somebody, and they're not an expert. You're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything desirable. And the same thing applies to Figma and anything else. The tool is the extension of the user, always. So whatever that person brings to the table, that's how much more you're going to get out of that tool. And then you have to remember to give the credit to the person using the tool and not the tool. The tool might be good, and one tool might be better than another, but we have to have, and I didn't mention this in my talks. I'm so glad you asked me this. The tools, the AI that's available to us today, you have to use your expertise to understand how to best use it, when to use it, and when it does not. UX is an infinite science. So it's something we have to have our head on a swivel. Things are always changing. I was there when the iPhone came out. We had to pivot. Wow, what do we do? What do we do now? And we found out that UX fundamentals are pervasive. So it can be applied to the website, to the mobile app, to the phone, to how you design the room that you're in to get the most efficiency out of it. Nothing digital about that. So UX can be applied to a lot of different things. Figma doesn't make UX better. As a matter of fact, Figma, frankly, I hope nobody gets in trouble. Hope you Geekle folks don't get in trouble with what I'm about to say, but I sort of specialize in getting in trouble, I guess, is that Figma does nothing. It's actually, it has one of the worst user experiences I've ever seen in my life of 40 plus years in corporate America. I have never seen this bad of a user experience. It's terrible. They piggybacked on UX people while it made them money. Then they abandoned us. And now you've got Figma Make and all this other kind of stuff and all these things you can do in Figma. They ignore the UXers aren't important anymore. And they've already set the stage. There's a grave plot next to InVision for companies that do stuff like this. If you know, InVision's gone now. And they were doing the same exact thing 10 years ago. So fundamentals are fundamentals are fundamentals. And we take the fundamentals and we make sure that we reflect fundamentals in what we do in Figma or Adobe or Axure. If you take the expertise away, Figma cannot fill that gap. It comes with the practitioner.
It was never a question that, right. Thank you very much. And that's it with questions. It was quite a conversation. I enjoyed a lot and it was so fun. And Pallavi and Victor and Darren, thank you very much for sharing your smiles, your passion, your ideas and experience, of course. And I hope to see you again with new and fresh ideas or old ideas, which are actually still matter, if you know what I mean. Okay, thank you very much, dear audience. Thank you for watching and see you on the next chapter. Have a nice evening, day, or night, or whatever you have. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you so
everybody.
much.
Yeah, bye everyone.